right, welcome to another edition of Fire, Flour, and Fur. I'm going to show you how I prep a turkey. I actually brine turkey, so this is just the prep work before it goes into the brine. Throughout this little tidbit we're doing here, you're probably going to hear our dogs come crashing in a few times because we've had some crows that are flying around here, and for some reason they do not like crows. We do, the dogs don't. This is just a very simple prep. This turkey, I normally try to do turkeys that are between like 12 and 14 pounds, 12 to 15 pounds at the most. They cook better, and when I'm smoking them, if you get some that are bigger, like around 19, 20 pounds, sometimes it takes way too long and the meat dries out. A couple of things about turkeys when you do them. This little pop-up timer that you get with these are set for around like 175, 180 sometimes before they pop up. I'm sure they do that because that's just a safety thing, just to make sure everything's done. If you use that, understand that especially the thigh area and the thinner part of the breast are probably going to be kind of dry. So I don't necessarily use that. I leave it in just because you pull it out, that the juices and stuff in the turkey will come out too. So you can leave that in. However, I would highly suggest that you get a decent meat thermometer. I use a Thermopen. I have a couple of them. They work really well. They're calibrated and they're pretty much instant read. And according to what you do, you want the deepest part of the center of the breast. The center of the deepest part of the breast you want to be around 165-ish when you pull it, and that'll keep it moist. Quick thing about the prep on this is all we're going to do here. This is just it's a Norbest turkey, more of a brand name, but this works for all turkeys that you do. Hoping we can get through this fairly quick. This is just the prep before we brine, and then I'll show you how to put it in brine. Also, if you get on our channel and you send me a message or something, I will send you the recipe for the brine. It's a really good recipe. It's something I came up with several years ago. It's very simple. Works really well, gives the turkey a little added flavor without overdoing it on certain flavors, and it really helps with the moisture. So anyway, first things first. So obviously, first thing, you always want to use gloves when you deal with any sort of raw meat, specifically poultry. This particular one here, I've just pulled it out of the bag. I haven't really cleaned it up much. So as you can see here, we've still got the keeper on the legs. All the stuff's still inside the giblet pack and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and first thing I'll do is I'll pull that giblet pack out. Now this turkey was frozen when we got it, and I've thawed it out for the last few days, and there's still some ice in it, but we can take care of that when we wash it out. It's going to take a little bit to get that out of there because that's a little more frozen than I want it to be. However, when we put it in the brine, you want it to be cold without being super frozen. But sometimes you get to that point, you never know exactly what it is just by feeling the outside of the package. Okay, so this little thing here, I like cutting this piece out. You can use a knife on a lot of this. I like using scissors. And if there's anything better to do is put some glasses on so I can see what the hell I'm doing. Okay, so you get to where you can spread the legs a little bit. You see this piece here? It's usually locked in pretty tight. Huh? When you spread the legs? Spread the legs a little bit. Move the tail out of the way. And this has usually got, it's a piece in there that's in there pretty tight, so sometimes you end up having to cut that out. What you'll also find in here is, damn, these gloves are slippery, is the neck.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what that is. Yeah, this has got a lot of ice in it. And because these are enhanced turkeys, you'll get a lot of that. You'll get the liquid that freezes in it, and that's fine. I mean, this works for just about any turkey. This has got a little tab thing on it. If you get a hold of it, it'll just pop right out. So you'll see sitting in the turkey, get a hold of that tab, pull it right out. I like to keep the cavity and everything open as much as I can. I try to get as much of this ice out of here as I can because the brine will actually take care of a lot of that. Okay, so what you can see here on the back side, you've got a lot of this loose skin, a lot of this stuff in here that's just kind of loose and floating around. And excuse me. The tail is sitting there, so we'll take our scissors or a knife, we'll go ahead and we'll lop the tail off. And we'll use that for chicken nuggets later. There's a lot of this loose skin here. Like I say, you kind of want to get the legs spread apart so you can work with it. Not a word. You take the scissors and just cut this loose skin out of the way. You kind of don't want to get too excited on it, so you got to kind of be careful about how you cut this, otherwise you expose too much of the meat. So as I'm cutting this, You can see I'm trying not to get too far up into where the actual breast meat is, but I do want to get this loose skin out of the way, and I'll show you, in a few minutes why. So we'll cut down, get some of this loose skin out of the way. Oops, got that a little too much. Yeah, it's a little too much right there, but we do want to get rid of some of this right here. Okay. All right, so we've opened the cavity up. Okay, same thing on the neck side. You got this big, loose, floppy piece of skin right here. There's like this excess fat and stuff in here. You can pull some of that out. That's great. Once again, it's just a turkey. It's not rocket science. Okay, same thing here. Now what you've got is you've got this section here where the meat starts. You get up where this meat starts right here. You kind of want to get the skin up kind of even with that. Once again, I'll show you here in a minute why I'm doing that. So if you take your scissors and just start cutting around where that area is, try not to cut too much off where you expose too much of the meat. Get that out of the way so I can see what the hell I'm doing. Try not to expose too much meat, but the loose stuff you do want to get rid of. See how I'm just getting there? So there's the exposed meat there. You don't want to go any further than that. Same thing on this side. Try to just come up to where you're just exposing the meat on the inside, but try not to cut too much to where it gets around the outside. And like I say, I'm going kind of fast on this. I guess I need to explain. I really should have done this because this is our Thanksgiving turkey. I should have done this the other day, but with the schedule that my kids have with husbands and grandkids, my grandkids, their kids, then living in different areas, we really have to kind of plan what we're doing. So in actuality, we're doing our Thanksgiving on Saturday, which is tomorrow for us. And so we're just getting all the prep work done now. So bookmark this next year when it rolls around. At least you'll have something that you're going, or Christmas, there you go, anytime you do a turkey. Okay, one more thing on this right here. There's a lot of this loose stuff right here. That can actually come out also. You kind of want to open the cavity up as much as you can. Now, I'm going to be smoking this turkey, and if you deep fry it or just do a standard bake in the oven, this works the same for anything. The difference being is if you're going to smoke a turkey, don't stuff it. I know some people do. I tried it once. It didn't work very well because the bread and the stuffing just, absorbed way too much smoke. It was just way too much. Some people kind of get hung up on the whole idea of the word smoke. When you smoke something, it's a flavoring. It's a flavor enhancer. It's a flavor addition. It's not. You don't want to taste smoke on everything. So these little loose pieces that are around, all this other stuff that's here, try to get rid of that. So you can see how I've opened the cavity up here. I'll wash it out here in a second. Open this up, got rid of this skin as much as I can. Skin here. And then the same thing on the next side. We've opened this up. These loose pieces here, we'll kind of just clean it up a little bit. See, I like using scissors on this just because you can kind of get a better grip on what you're doing because sometimes that skin can get a little tough. Cut through that stuff. I must have cut my glove because there's a piece of glove sitting there. Anyway, all right, so that's a good cleanup on that. Now the next thing we want to do, especially you want to do with turkey, is you really want to wash it out good. You've got to wash a turkey good. Poultry in general. There's just a lot of things that go along with poultry that way. Okay, so we're doing this over the sink. You probably won't be able to see this very well. I'll talk a little louder. You want to wash the cavity out as good as you can. You want to get as much crap out of there as you possibly can. Also make sure your sink is clean. Anytime, food safety at any time like this, you've got to be thinking about food safety. Even though you're not going to be cooking it and probably get rid of some of this stuff. The fact of the matter is you can never be too safe when it comes to food safety. It's very important that you wash everything off really good. Make sure your sink's clean, make sure you're wearing gloves, all that fun stuff. All right. So with any luck, wash this on out. Thank you, sweetheart. Here, I could have just carried it over. That's fine. I'll just do it this way. All right, so we've washed everything out. We've cleaned the cavity up real good. I don't know how well you can see that, but you can see the back, the ribs in the back and all that stuff. This is all cleaned out, and then of course, because it's in the way it is, that's got a hole all the way through it, which you really want to make sure that's there too, especially if you're smoking, deep frying as well. Anyway, so that's the first part of the prep on that. Make sure that you get everything good and clean. Once you've cleaned it, hand me those paper towels, please. Once you've cleaned it up real good, make sure to pat it dry. Just a nice quick once over on the body itself, on the breast, and on the back. Now, sometime down the road when we do this, I'll actually show you how to spatchcock one of these, and I really don't like doing them for Thanksgiving because I don't know, it kind of takes the traditional part out of it. When you can pull turkey out, throw it on a platter, and everybody sees it. Last thing you want to see last thing that you want is to see, something that's been splayed open. So anyway, sometime soon I'll probably do a spatchcock on a chicken. So that's a little bit easier. Anyway, so that's, see, this is why you want to wash it real good. Make sure it's good and thawed. That's another thing too. Don't ever do this to a turkey that's frozen. I mean, frozen, because for one thing, if you're trying to do something like this with a frozen turkey, when you go to brine it, it doesn't work. All right, the last thing we'll do before we put it in the brine, you can see we've got the skin here and everything. What we want to do is we want to get a hold of the skin right here and peel it up a little bit from the meat. Now, by doing this, what this does, this allows the brine and anything else to actually get to the meat. I mean, the skin itself, when you look at it, it's just basically a gasket. It's not going to allow anything to get where it needs to get. Fingers up in there. You don't want to pull the skin off at all. And the skin will, in fact, stay on the turkey as you're cooking it. So we get the front part, get some of this stuff out of the way here. Just lift it just a little bit off the meat. Turn it around, do the same thing on this side. Get your fingers up under there. Run that around. And there's these pieces that are hanging on pretty good. Sometimes say don't force the issue. Don't get too excited about pulling the meat clear off, because if you do, when you go to cook it, if there's any sort of a hole or something in it, it might shrink up a little bit, and you'll have trouble. But anyway, so you can see we've got pretty much the meat's off most of the turkey, or excuse me, the skin's off most of the meat. Come down the sides. This will help, when you're smoking it or cooking it or whatever, because the skin itself isn't trying to just take all the heat. You'll allow to get stuff to come up underneath it. These gloves are falling apart. Anyway, so that's that. All right. So now it's ready to go in the brine. We've gotten all the stuff out of it. We've cleaned it up a little bit. We could probably clean it up a little bit better, but like I say, I'm kind of in a hurry to get this done. You can see we've got the skin comes up around this area here. It's not too far back. We've still got the skin basically on the back of the breast, and so we're good to go. We'll run it in the brine here in just a second. So anyway, we'll be right back with that. Okay, we're back. All right, so this is the brine that I did. The brine is a very simple, it's just salt. It uses vegetable stock instead of chicken stock, vegetable stock instead of chicken stock, and just cut up vegetables and some spices here and there. Like I say, if you let me know, I'd like you to subscribe to our channel, but I'm not going to force you to. But if you would, send me a private message. I'll send you the recipe for this brine. It's very simple, easy to do. Just a big old stock pot sort of thing. You can use about anything you want. I've done turkey brining in bags, brines, and I've done several turkeys or whatever at a time for people on the holidays. And just a big like 2.5 or something gallon bag works fine in that. The important thing to remember is that when you do any sort of brine like this, is that make sure that the turkey is completely covered and make sure the cavity is full. The whole idea is to get the brine as many places as you can. And once again, this is a reason why we want to peel the skin back. And it's also one of the reasons why we want to make sure we cut the skin on the turkey a little bit to make sure that we are allowing the meat to absorb as much of this as we can. I know people that sometimes will brine for 2 or 3 days. I don't buy into that. The only reason being is because this brine does have a lot of salt in it. Well, I shouldn't say a lot of salt, but it's got some salt in it. You also have to know that if you're using an enhanced turkey, it's going to have some salt stuff in it already. So you kind of got to be careful about the amount of time it spends in the brine. You're not curing it. You're just adding flavor and moisture to it. So 12 to 24 hours max. I'm kind of hoping, it's almost 4 o'clock here. I'm kind of hoping to get everything on the pit by about 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. So, we're well beyond the 12 hours, but we're well within the 12 to 24 hours. Let me get some gloves again. Hold on, I can grab those. Excuse me, baby. Of course, the gloves were in full defense mode in the box, so they're hard to get out. Always, again, I can't stress enough when you're doing, especially anything with poultry, make sure you wear gloves. Keep, even though you're in your own home and you know what's going on, food safety is very important, especially, just for anything you're doing, tough things like this. Okay, so we've got the bird. We want to make sure that everything's loose, that the legs are loose, the cavity is, because we want it to be as easy for all this stuff to get to as we can. And you can see, if I turn this around, you can see how the cavity is, quite open. These areas here are quite open, so we are pretty sure the brine is going to get in there. We know that we've got the hole all the way through it, so the brine's going to get as much as it can in there. Get the wings out as much as you can, kind of get up under here, even though, the skin's there or whatever. But once again, do everything you can to get the brine everywhere. Okay, as far as this goes, like I say, it's just a very simple brine. It looks dark because the vegetable stock I use is kind of a dark stock. Just go ahead and pick it up. Hopefully it won't drain too much, but it should a little. And then just go ahead and plop it in. Make sure that when it goes in, that you try to get it breast side down. That's the important thing. Push it down as much as you can. Now it will float a little bit, and this pot, the way it is, it is what it is. Now what you can see, I don't know if you can see this in that camera, but the whole turkey is not submerged. It really should be. It kind of really doesn't matter if this much of the back's sticking out, but I want to ensure that the cavity is completely full. So doing that, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more cold water. Make sure the water's cold. Once again, food safety, you got to do everything you can to keep the temperature low. And a little extra water is not going to hurt anything, because what we're trying to do here is just get to where we've got the spices and the salts and everything get where they need to be. So, all right, when that gets down in there, even though this little bit's sticking up, I'm not that worried about it. I will put just a little more water in. Because once again, I just want to make good sure that the cavity is always full. And by doing that, you see the level comes up to where, it's basically all the way in the cavity. So I'm going to add just a touch more. As deep as it can. Now once again, the recipe that I do is good for about a 12 to 14 pound bird. And if you have to, you can always add just a little bit more water like we've done here. You don't overfill it. And there you go. So there's a bird in the brining process. Throw the lid on it. And immediately put it back out in the fridge. We want to make sure and keep it cool. So it'll sit in the fridge for, well, let's see, we got to prep everything, try to get everything on by 7-ish in the morning. A couple of things also about a brine. Because of the way you're doing it and the way we do this, the bird will cook a little faster than what you're normally used to seeing. The spices and everything, and the salt and everything, kind of with the moisture, it'll cook a little faster. So if you are used to if you cook it in the oven and you're used to having it cook, however long it cooks, 4 or 5 hours at whatever temperature you're doing, know that it probably will finish a little sooner if you brine. Also, if you smoke it, especially if you smoke it and if you do it in the oven, the skin's going to go a little darker than you're probably usually used to seeing when you cook a turkey. Don't panic about that. It's not burning. That's why you want to, you make sure you baste it as much as you can, use the butter and stuff on it. And if we have time in the morning, we get everything up, get the pit fired, we'll probably go through the process and I'll show you how I prep the turkey to go on the pit. It's a easy process, but it's kind of lengthy. I shouldn't say it's lengthy. It's just, you just got to kind of make sure you get everything done that way. Anyway, so that's it on my turkey prep for the way I brine a turkey. If you have any questions, make sure you let us know. We'll go through the process tomorrow. We'll see about how we feel in the morning when we get up to have to put everything on, because if you look outside right now, it is a cold, miserable mother out there right now. We've had snow for the last couple of days. The wind's blowing, and it's definitely a winter wonderland out there. And I don't know about getting up at 5:30 in the morning to try to get my pit fired and try to get everything warmed up, because it's going to take a lot to get it warmed up in the morning. But, oh well. The kids enjoy what we do, so that's the important thing. Anyway, that's where we're at. Hopefully tomorrow we'll get time to show you the prep process, and then depending on when the turkey gets done, I'll actually show you what it looks like when we pull it off the pit. So that's it right now for this part of Fire, Flower, and Fur. I guess part 1 of turkey prep. If you have any questions, let me know, and thank you very much.